Straight out of Odessa.
No. Ew. Ew.
How's it going, everybody? Welcome to the Aggie Game Day Extra podcast. Travis Brown is not here. I am Tyler Shaw, joined by our chief meteorologist, Max Crawford.
Howdy.
And we've got a new face in the ranks, the newest member of our KBTX Sports Team, Jair Brooks Davis. Jair, a big howdy from KBTX, from College Station.
Well, I'm glad to be here. Howdy to you guys too. I mean, before I came here, I still lived in Texas, so I do think that howdy is appropriate, right?
Yes, of course.
Yes, howdy is very much a greeting here in Aggie land.
They say howdy out in West Texas.
Of course they say howdy
Yeah,
out in
they
West. Max, you know a little bit about West Texas, so
Yeah.
you know about that.
Yeah, so Jair and I actually both worked at competing stations in Midland, but we have a couple of common allies, I suppose, from Midland, Odessa, from some of the lifers there. So, yeah, we're happy to bring back a West Texas presence to that, who also loves their Friday football.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Friday football, Odessa, I'm sure a lot of people know, is the home of Friday Night Lights.
Oh, yeah.
You know, going back to the Permian Panthers 1988 and 1989 years. They didn't win the state title in 88. They won in 89, if I have that one correct. I still need to get that's what I believe is the Mojo facts.
Yeah,
right there, too. But those were the glory days. They need to... They're hoping to go back to their glory days in 2025 and beyond. So, but yes, that is where I was before I came over to KBTX.
Yeah, so obviously you're going to have a lot of high school football to deal with here. We're going to get into it. We're going to have some A&M football, which is kind of what we mainly focus on in this podcast. But Jair he's our new weekend sports anchor. He'll be he's kind of hit the ground running this week and getting to perfect timing with fall camp ramping up. But you're coming to us from Odessa. Tell us a little bit about yourself, the Jair, before Odessa and everything. Just kind of where are you from, and I guess how'd you get started in this?
Well, I am from New York originally. I went to Hofstra University. I did my master's there. Grew up a diehard Mets fan, as a matter of fact.
Okay.
So, yeah, no, don't worry about it. For all you Houston Astros fans, I am rooting for you when it comes to going up against the Yankees. So
Okay.
You do have a couple of Rangers fans next year.
Yeah, I was going to say.
Don't worry about,
But you probably like it when the Rangers beat the Yankees, too.
Oh, of course.
Right, yes.
I know
when anybody beats the Yankees, I assume.
Anybody beats the Yankees. I'm
It's a
rooting.
good day.
I'm rooting for the Red Sox right now in that race, and I know that the MLB trade deadline is creeping up upon us by tomorrow, right? 31st.
I was going to say it's
today.
soon if it's not the end of the month.
Yeah. But going back to my journey within sports, I used to yell at the TV screen all the time because the Mets were pretty bad growing up. So, at least back in middle school, and my mom used to tell me to calm down. I used to go to school in Manhattan, so I would always take the train to school, and we would leave at like 5-something in the morning to go catch the train, or 6-something in the morning. So at night, my mom would try to tell me, you've got to go to bed, you've got to be ready for school, and we would get into arguments because I would be up watching MLB Network.
Okay.
As a matter of fact.
Yeah.
So, and trust me, that story is going to come back later on. So when I went to college, my mom I was going to go for engineering for airplanes. That's what I originally wanted to do. I do love planes. And then she told me, you're always up late yelling at the television screen. You're always yelling at the Mets. You're always upset about this. You're always upset about that. You're always telling us what you think that they should do. Why don't you go into communication? So I said, okay, then. So I went ahead. I went to college, studied television communication. By my sophomore to junior year, that's when I got more involved into the sports department. And then heading into my senior year, I was in Miami at the NABJ, National Association of Black Journalists, and this is where the watching MLB Network late at night comes into play. So I met a lot of nice people there. You walk into my first ever time walking to a room. Grant Hill is just standing right in front of me, NBA Hall of Famer. A couple of days later, I made a lot of connections. I'm walking down the hallway. Rob Parker tells me, you need to go into this certain room for this certain dinner. I walk in to that room. Isaiah Thomas from the Detroit Pistons is standing right in front of me, which was amazing. And then there's Charles Johnson. It was in Miami, so they're honoring Miami legends. So Charles Johnson, he was the catcher for the 1997 Marlins, won the World Series that year. He was being honored, and they had a little Q&A, and I wanted to show out in front of Isaiah Thomas. I wanted to, impress him. So Charles Johnson is on the stage. So this is like where I remember about that 97 Marlins team, and I don't think people have really watched this documentary, Brothers in Exile.
Okay.
Have you guys ever heard of that?
I have not.
I think it's the 30 for 30.
Yes.
I haven't seen it.
Well, that's not necessarily MLB Network, but still like
Gotcha.
late night documentaries in
Yeah.
sports, right? So, Max, what do you know about Brothers in Exile?
Oh, not much. I just know that it exists. That's it. So
Brothers in Exile, it's a documentary about Levon Hernandez and Orlando Hernandez, El Duque Hernandez. El Duque won the World Series with the Yankees back in those later 90s years, but he defected from Cuba, and his half-brother was Levon, who defected from Cuba as well. So Levon was on the 1997 Marlins pitching staff. And then you also had guys like Kevin Brown, Al Leiter, who is a former Met. And then I'm blanking on some names. So I was asking Charles, my question to Charles was, you caught all these different pitchers in that run to the World Series and winning the World Series. Who was the most dynamic? So he went into a whole entire gist about who was on what made them different. Kevin Brown was, some people could argue that his 90s years were Hall of Fame worthy. He was an ace at the time between San Diego and Florida. They were Florida at the time, and he went into depth, and then right after he finished his answer, a guy came up to me while I was introducing myself to Charles and his family, and I'll never forget Charles's mom, or I think it was his wife. She was like, "How do you know?" Oh no, it's his mom. She was like, "How do you know my baby boy so well? How do you know her? I mean, how do you know him so well?" And I just explained about always watching late at night, and a guy came behind me, gave me his card, and he said, "Contact me when you get home." And it was the MLB office, and my first job out of college, and then while going for my master's, but first job out of college was broadcast associate at MLB Network. Did that for 2 seasons in 2020, 2021. Yeah, 2020 was shortened.
Right.
And I know that this is a very long-winded answer.
No, this is great.
Yeah, very long-winded answer. Went to night school went to night school in Long Island. Left at 5:00 in the morning to make it to New Jersey for 7. I used to work on shows like MLB Central, High Heat. Helped produce. Helped guys like Bill Ripken do breakdowns, and then I still wanted to be on television. During the MLB off season, there's less work, so was furloughed.
Right.
And then worked on my reel. Luckily, made it over to Midland, Odessa, and that's how I got my on-air career started. Even while at MLB Network, I wanted to be on air, so that's how I got started. Was at KOSA, or KBTX sister station, for 4 calendar years, 3 school years, 3 academic athletic years, and then made the switch over here this week, going back for the past 3 weeks.
2 days
I was
ago.
gonna say, like, for those watching or listening, like, this is day 3 of Jair's job, and so I'm learning stuff as we're talking too, and I'm excited for you to see Kyle Field and see a football game. But now that I'm hearing you, Tyler, I'm excited for this guy to see some Aggie baseball.
I was just going to say, you're a big baseball guy.
Yeah.
And what we don't have an MLB. I mean, we kind of cover the Astros and the Rangers.
Right.
And, you've been in Texas. Those are kind of the Texas professional teams. But we do cover a lot of Aggie baseball. And that was, when I first came here, a big introduction to a whole world that I didn't really understand was college baseball, but really SEC baseball.
Yeah.
I didn't know how big it was until coming to Aggieland. I mean, Max, you can kind of tell him what to expect, but I think he's going to love baseball season.
Yeah, like people love to brag about the the pageantry of the SEC when it comes to football and stuff like that, but I would argue that it's even more unique when it comes to baseball. So, but yeah, we got a football season to get through first, and of which just started. But yeah.
Just three names I wanted to drop before we take it over to football. Luckily in Midland, LSU, they've won 2 national championships over the past 3 years. I'm sure you guys know the name Chase Shores.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a Midland kid. I'm kind of bummed out that I didn't get the chance to cover him.
Yeah.
And then 2 names, speaking of Aggies, before we switch over to football, are actually Mets, if I'm not mistaken, 2 bullpen guys, AJ Minter and Brooks Raley.
Oh, yeah. Get Minter out and moving around. That's the joke.
No, but we can't do that. He's done for the season, so don't remind me about that.
Yeah.
Yes. Anyways.
Yeah. There's were the Coleman brothers that were Midland guys too. Probably right before you got there. I don't think Coleman's anyway. 2 brothers that played Aggie baseball here that both went to Midland High, but yeah.
I could look that one up after the pod.
I forget what their names are, but they're both useful.
So Jair, when kind of we do this weekly podcast, and Max is an Aggie. Travis and I are not. We obviously cover the Aggies. You're not an Aggie either, but you're going to be covering Texas A&M. So we kind of call Max the kind of the heartbeat,
the arrhythmic heartbeat
of things, and we're on this side of the table. We're kind of more the brains, So we look at it from a non-biased journalistic perspective. Max is allowed to look at it from the fan perspective. So that's kind of
I'm allowed to be biased. I'm allowed to get ticked.
That's kind of the dynamic. We bring it.
You guys settle me down on occasion when the sky is falling, or in the opposite direction when I'm saying, "Hey, the sky's the limit," kind of thing. Which at the start of fall camp, I'm closer to that.
If I may say so, I'm a little scared to see Max get ticked.
It's gonna be. It's hopefully you won't. Hopefully you won't. You know.
Yeah. Maybe it's just nothing but blue
see.
Skies and sunshine and rainbows.
We will see.
Typically, a football season has its ups and downs, and it's a little bit of a roller coaster.
Hurricane season's not over. Yeah. So we still got a long ways to go. But first impressions. I mean, obviously y'all haven't seen them practice yet because it's an evening practice. But so you went to your first presser yesterday. First impressions of who you saw at the podium and stuff like that?
Well, to start off, I'm going to start with the offensive lineman, Trey Zune III. That is the biggest strength of the team heading into fall camp, as a matter of fact. One of the questions that I asked him was about, leadership and also like passing it down, and this is his last year. He's a graduate student, if I'm not mistaken. Mm-hmm. So he's been trying to pass down a lot of knowledge over to the young guys, which is what he told me in the presser yesterday. And I think that A&M, they're going to have a pretty good future with the offensive line. So he spoke. Marcel Reed spoke. He seems very confident in himself. He seems like a pretty good character.
Yeah. Yeah,
it's got a private jet, which isn't. Why would you not want that?
They all do now. All the quarterbacks do now.
Well, I mean, I was just going to talk about, he just seems like a pretty good kid, just trying to, find his way. I'm sure that he has maybe deep down he could have pressure on him heading into, being the guy.
Right.
He could. But I think that he's handling it well, working with receivers, trying to do whatever he can to make sure that the offense gets going heading into 2025. Along with that, we have Scooby Williams, too, coming back from an injury last year, but still was able to play.
So we didn't find that out till really after the season.
Yeah.
That he had kind of played with that torn meniscus, but...
Which is crazy to me, especially at like linebacker or defensive back position. Like having to run across the field with the torn meniscus sounds not so fun. But...
And then, of course, we have to go up to the top with head coach Mike Elko. And the number one thing that I think is pretty good great about Mike Elko and with where A&M is heading right now is, he's just trying to change the culture for the better. And it just seems like he has a crew and he has a whole entire team behind him that believes in him and is looking to change the culture for the better, too. And that's sort of like what I mentioned with Trey Zune of how he's trying to help build up the younger linemen that are coming up in the program.
Yeah. No, for sure. I think you will see some differences in year 2. But, Jair, you're about to start kind of your full fall camp, see the first Aggie season. So Max, I guess, what should Jair expect in his first season in Aggieland? Kind of what is football at Texas A&M Compass? I guess what do you expect?
I think a lot of people would still tell you that football is still kind of everything. I mean, you have the pageantry surrounding baseball, and we've got a new basketball coach that is really, really doing everything he needs to do to try to bring some buzz, no pun intended, back to the program. But football is still like the bread and butter of Texas A&M athletics, and so like it's the classic SEC Saturday where there's tailgates for miles and miles. But as a biased member of the media, it's a little bit different at College Station. Not to say that like we party better than than they do in Death Valley or in Oxford or what have you, but like it's a good time there, and especially the big games. There's an air about the stadium where I used to always brag about, and I'd be able to say, like, as I walk into the stadium and like we go through the pregame and stuff like that, I used to be able to predict with a pretty good certainty, like, oh, we're going to win this game, or like the vibes feel good. But I think it's going to be a good time for you. There's so many people. It's raucous. It's loud. In the early part of the year, it's hot, but hopefully we'll see some firepower on offense. And Elko has established that like he's a big defensive guy, where we kind of fell off towards the end of the season last year. But I'm hoping that we bring that back. We get some good sacks, and like we just kind of roll with that home environment. So yeah, that's what you expect. I mean, I'm not going to sit here and tell you that it's the best place on earth, but to a lot of people it is, right? It's kind of sacred ground for a lot of Aggies who have seen a lot of cool things happen on the field. So yeah, I'm excited for you to experience that.
I respectfully disagree with you.
Yeah?
You said that you think I'm going to have a good time. I disagree on that. I think I'm going to have a great time.
There you go.
There you go. Yep. So what, Jair, your first season in Aggieland, what are you most looking forward to?
I'm looking forward to everything.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward. You see, my mindset heading into this is just take it all in, just embrace it, especially heading into, year one, just understanding the culture. And for me to enjoy, and my mindset when it comes to enjoying a place or enjoying a location is just embrace the culture that comes with it too. And I do want, and of course I know that we want to talk about the team, but one thing that I didn't mention to you all is, as I've been moving in here over the past weekend, I'm going into Walmart and I'm just asking people at Walmart. They don't know who I am yet, but I'm just like, what is it like on a game day here what's it like on a Saturday for game day? And they say to me, you don't want to go anywhere near Kyle Field.
Yep, exactly. It is two types of people that are doing everything they can to get to Kyle Field and to get there as early as possible. And then there are the people who are doing everything they can to avoid it. And I tell you what, you're never going to know this because you're always going to be at the game. But the best time to shop in this town or go out to eat, maybe not go out to eat, but the best time to shop for sure is in the middle of a game. Go to the grocery store right in the middle of the game because there ain't going to be anybody in there.
Does her grocery shopping during Aggie games.
That's the time to do it. Because everybody is either at the stadium or they're at a bar or they are at home watching the game. So yeah.
They're telling me at Walmart, you don't want to go anywhere near Kyle Field. I'm like, well, I'm going to have to be all up in Kyle Field.
I hate to break it to you.
So even at the press conference yesterday, Alex is driving. He was so nice enough to drive. I got to relax in the passenger seat, but Alex is driving. And then because I'm thinking about what they told me at Walmart, and then I'm just hearing all just about how crazy it gets. And I ask him, I'm like, what time do they usually go out for Aggie game day here at KBTX? Because I'm like, we got to make sure that we're on time, we're early. We can't be caught up in the traffic or anything like that. So, I mean, I was generally concerned. I was like, what time should we be at Kyle Field on home game days?
You'll still get the pretty nice parking pass though, don't you?
Yeah, we do.
Okay.
So we don't have to worry about parking a whole lot. But we usually.
That's good.
I mean, Aggie game day airs at 10 a.m. and we're usually at the station getting ready to leave about 8. So
I think that is
we try to do a run through at 9.
That's one thing a lot of folks don't understand is the caps that you'll have to wear in the fall and how it's all systems go on Friday football on Friday, and then you do that live show Friday night, and then especially for the 11 o'clock kicks that next Saturday. I mean, y'all are right back up and Adam, like getting like 2 or 3 hours of sleep, then hopping up and doing some more football, doing the big boy football or whatever. But it's exciting for me to just kind of sit here on Tuesdays or Wednesdays and talk about all the work that y'all are gonna have to put in over the weekend. But
I have a couple more things before we continue.
Sure.
I'm thinking there's been times when I was like, I don't know, should I bring a sleeping bag with me to work on a Friday night, like going over into Saturday, just to make sure that I'm up here, I'm ready to go. I'm like, that may be in consideration because I care about punctuality, and then my mom is also from the Northeast too. She grew up as a Mets fan. When I visited a couple weeks ago, Tyler, when I saw you, we're driving past Kyle Field. My mom's she's looking over at Kyle Field. I'm like, yeah, that's where the Aggies play, or the Aggies football team plays. She's like, they play in there? I'm like, yeah. She's like, this is bigger than Citi Field. This is bigger than a Mets stadium. This is bigger than a pro stadium. I'm like, welcome to the SEC. Yep. She's like, oh my God, don't forget, we're not from SEC country, folks. Yep. So, for her to see it, it's pretty amazing. But going back to the original question of coming over here to Bryan College Station, I'm excited. It's been nice. The environment is beautiful. Getting the chance to live like 2 minutes away from an HEB is pretty cool. But all in all, though, I'm excited.
Great.
Yeah. Of course, I wish we could have an HEB up in New York.
Yeah.
Oh my God! but all in all, though, Aggieland has been great, and I'm just excited to see everything, from the ground up, regardless of what sport. But of course, we have to start with football.
Yeah, yeah. It always comes back to football, right? Like that's one of the things that when we're doing this pod in February and March. Yeah, we're going to talk about baseball and basketball and stuff like that, but most of the pods, at least we got to dedicate a couple minutes to football, whether it's just random off-season happenings or portal stuff or whatever it is. So yeah, it always comes back to football.
Over 40 years ago, my parents started C&J Barbecue, and today we continue to honor Dad's legacy with the best barbecue in the Brazos Valley. With locations on Harvey Road, Southwest Parkway, and our newest location on William J. Bryan, we carry on our family tradition of serving up award-winning barbecue, sides, and desserts. We also offer delivery, catering, as well as custom menus and private chef services. Come visit us today for some of the best barbecue around. C&J Barbecue. The C is for Chip, the J is for Joe, and the barbecue is for you.
We try to get this out early in the week, but it's almost at a little bit of a disadvantage just based on how this week is going. Because yes, y'all got to do our pressers yesterday, and so all we're kind of doing is still talking season a little bit. And there's that first practice that y'all are actually going to get to go to tonight. So I think some of these questions that we have not necessarily are going to be answered in the next couple of days, but it's even more hypothetical now. But I will say one of the things that stuck out to me the most about the presser, I got two things really. One is how Elko started and finished the presser, and he was talking about making that jump from year one to year two, and in so many words, he didn't say this exactly, but he was talking about how nobody's going to have higher expectations than I am for this program. And if you juxtapose that with a lot of the media polls from the magazines and the way that the media polls shook out after SEC Media Days, is a lot of people have us kind of middle of the road. And we've also talked ad nauseum about how, man, that second to about 10th or even 12th spot in the SEC is pretty much put it wherever you want it, because there just seems to be almost even more parity going into this season than there was last season, which was kind of crazy all the way up until maybe a week or two ahead of Thanksgiving. And so all that to say, Elko, I think, brought up a really good point of year one is establishing the culture, and he was not surprised that they were doing as well as they did towards the end of the season, but it was almost like we overshot our expectations, and then we got to a certain point where all of a sudden became a letdown. And so now you're kind of sitting in year two, you've established the culture, you've got a lot of returning players, and he essentially said, nobody's got higher expectations for this program than I do, and they want every bit of going into November, maybe even going into late November, still being in contention for the SEC title race. And our schedule looks a little different, obviously, than it did last year, but I think it's a possibility that they can do that again, especially with all the returning talent. And then one more thing on that rant. I loved what Marcel Reed said. I think it was maybe Carter who asked the question, but he said, as y'all have all read, I'm not a passer. Like, he's got this chip on his shoulder, man. He's got a buzz cut, too. Like, he got a haircut, like, right before fall camp. He knows people are gunning for him, and he seems to be embracing it. So I was pretty into that. Like, that was awesome to hear.
I will say, if we see Marcel come out with that attitude of, that smug little, I'm not a passer.
Yeah.
And just lights up with some of these weapons he's got, look out. Because, I think the offense could be dangerous. I don't know if it's all the maroon goggles and the sunshine over here rubbing off on me. But the closer we get to kickoff, the higher and higher I kind of feel on this team. Mainly because of the experience. Jair, you talked about Trey Zune and the offensive line, and I think that is the most important part of making this engine run. I don't think there's a reason why come November we shouldn't be talking about this team as in contention for the SEC.
Yeah. I mean, look, what were we, 7-1 at one point?
Yeah.
And that was with the deficiencies that we had at wide receiver. That was with the uncertainty that we had at the quarterback position. But what was steady, even through injuries, was the offensive line. And even with 2 key injuries to running backs, our offensive line still held it down. And so you inject all this more talent and you bring back a healthy Reuben and a healthy Le'Veon Moss, and all of a sudden you've got weapons in the receiving core to throw to. I think you have to assume that it's going to get at least marginally better.
Right. Now, that's easier said than done, and there's so many factors that kind of go into it. But just looking at it on paper, I think, why would this team not be, marginally better? The thing that kind of stuck out to me in this presser was talking about finishing. Mm-hmm. And just year 2, and even, he talked a little bit about strength and conditioning and the work with Tommy Moffitt, and how they just seemed so much better prepared heading in year 2 of Mike Elko's tenure than they were last year.
Didn't he say something to the extent of, like, when he got here that one winter, they couldn't go through all of Moffitt's workout programs because the players just, like, weren't ready for that yet?
Yeah, so that's a little bit
of an indictment on the pass program, but
right. And that's what stuck out to me, because if, here's the if, and we'll start to see that when we start looking, starting tonight, looking at practices and everything, is if their conditioning is better, because what killed them last year was finishing the season, the last few games of the season, and finishing games. If they're better conditioned, better prepared, mentally, physically, everything to finish games, get better as, through the 4 quarters, I think that's what's going to, have them make that next jump. So I don't know. That's kind of what stuck out to me. I know it's still talking season right now, but it seems like they should be marginally better from last year. But again, what that means, I don't know yet.
We'll see.
It also comes down to experience. One thing that you also mentioned about Marcel Reed, I like his haircut too. Just to say, I want to get natural waves just like him.
You're trying to be more like Marcel, is what you're saying.
I'm trying to be more. I am trying to be more like Marcel. But going back down to business, I do think that within this offense of A&M, like between the offensive line and the ability to run, especially with Marcel Reeder, I feel like they should utilize that. And I think that's something that we should be looking to watch tonight and as, the practices continue. And then one more thing that I do want to hit about Marcel Reed with the passing game. Not saying that just because he did this means that it's going to just automatically rub off on him. He also mentioned yesterday that he attended the Manning Passing Academy as well too. I think you guys just sort of touched upon it. But he mentioned that he spoke yesterday about what he was able to learn too, and he also mentioned John Gruden, if I'm not mistaken, if you heard that part in a press conference. So I do think that Marcel, it's great that he has a chip on his shoulder and he has something to prove in 2025. So I think that, I think that right now that they should just utilize his running ability combined with the offensive line, and when they're able to, clamp the box on him, then he's going to be able to air it out a lot more.
Yeah. And you know what? The schedule, I think, although we have to go to Texas, we have to go to LSU, we have to go to Missouri.
Notre Dame.
Right. Oh, yeah, gosh, and that's the first one, right?
Yeah.
I do think that at least to start, it favors a better kind of easing into the season, whereas, home opener, Notre Dame, like right away, where the offense hadn't been established yet, and up until like 3 minutes left in the game, like it was still anybody's game. but I there's plenty to be said about strength of schedule and things like that, but I do not mind at all that we're starting it off with a nice slate of UTSA and Utah State. I am thankful for that.
I oftentimes wonder if anything would have been different last year had the first game not been,
Right.
maybe if it was the third or the fourth game like it is this year. I don't know if it would have been any different.
I think especially with the Wigman situation, I don't know that you can definitively say, but I would have given us a better chance at beating Notre Dame with a game under our belt for sure. And obviously we have to go to South Bend this year, but starting off 2-0, letting the hype build a little bit, that the way other things shake out around the league, that might end up, I forget what our preseason ranking is, but shoot, we might be somewhere from 9 to 12, like by the time we were rolling into South Bend. So I don't know. I'm all about building up the hype. You hate preseason polls.
They're pointless.
All right, sure. I happen to like seeing a number next to my team, and I think that's the only reason I don't hate it.
And speaking of polls, they should also. I hate the reveal of the college football playoff every single week. I get it.
It's exhausting.
For TV and ratings. It just sets you up for failure, though, because you can't explain all these jumps and people leaping from the fifth poll to the last poll.
Yeah.
From one week to another, because if this team is eighth, if they win, why would they jump 5 spots?
Right. Exactly.
And,
what happened in that 1 week? Yeah.
Right. Because I think that's all it is the final rankings. The committee is just trying to scramble it to how they think it should be, which they should just do that at the very end of the season.
Yeah.
But that's a rant for another day.
So a couple minutes left, and Jair, won't subject you to this if you don't want to, but if we think maybe just early feelings on the regular season, how things might shake out. You don't have to take it game by game or anything like that. But Tyler, do you have a number yet in your head that you're?
So I alluded to it that I keep getting higher and higher, and maybe that it went up 1 game because let's say the end of the season, spring, way early. I looked at the schedule, I looked at this team, and I thought 8-4. And sure, you can make all the jokes. Oh, Texas 8-4. Mm-hmm. It's just they're going to figure out a way to go 8-4. I look at the schedule today. Honestly, part of me looks at, wow, there's that potential of 10-2.
Yeah.
I think realistically, I'm putting them at 9 wins. If I had to mark the wins and the losses, I would put a loss at Texas. I know people would hate to hear that, and then a loss at LSU because they just don't win in Baton Rouge.
No.
And I don't know how good LSU is going to be. A lot of people are really high on them and think they're going to win the SEC.
Yeah.
But a good LSU team in Baton Rouge, that's going to be tough to beat.
Sure. I agree. I could definitely agree with that.
And then I do think they win at Notre Dame. I think, and it's just me, I think Florida is going to be that sleeper team in the SEC this year. I'm really high on DJ Lagway. Obviously, they can beat Florida at home. I don't think that Florida's just going to come in here and walk all over them. But I look at that as a trap, and I look at DJ Lagway, his kind of homecoming.
He was talking about it. He's going to have all of his family and friends in the stands already. Like he's already got that planned. Like,
I could just see
he was so excited to talk about coming to Kyle Field.
I could see a game like that being that third loss outside of LSU and Texas. But I do think they go into South Bend and get the win.
So I think we're on. I don't know if we're on the exact same page. I think we're in a similar chapter, though. I've got us around 9-3 to 8-4, and I'm sure that by the time we get to about kickoff of UTSA, I'm sure it's going to go up to 10-2. But where I'm sitting right now is 9-3 to 8-4, and I think the difference is, and I didn't even mention this earlier, but the difference to me between that 9-3 and 8-4 is stealing one of the Notre Dame and the Arkansas game.
Arkansas, that's going to be a tricky one.
Exactly. And I will say this till I'm blue in the face. That game, to me, entirely depends on what time kickoff is. If we get a sleepy midday game, I give us a much better shot than Fayetteville at night. It's been so long since we played there. It has been so long since they have beaten us and beaten us consistently. So I know they're going to have their number. And so that's, to me, it's like, okay, similar situation of, I'm not going to call a win at LSU until we actually do it, right? And Texas has all these expectations and things like that. And we'll probably be vying for a spot to Atlanta again. So I've got those two as the losses. And then I say, okay, well, where do any other losses come from? And to me, the only ones that scare me is at Notre Dame and at Arkansas. So I think as long as we get one of those, then yeah, you're looking at 9-3.
So
and that's an improvement.
Undefeated at Kyle Field then.
I think we have a real solid shot at doing that this year. Like you said, those games are not going to be easy, and I'm sure I'll eat my words about this later on. I don't think Mississippi State's going to be that much of a challenge. And I am really
Auburn at home too. I mean,
right. And so we lost at Auburn last year, but I do actually think it's an advantageous home slate because of getting Florida and South Carolina at home. I like our chances much more now against those two teams, knowing that it's at home, right? So, yeah, I think we have a pretty decent chance of having an undefeated home slate. Better than last year.
So, Jair, you can put a number if you want, but just kind of what are your... I know you haven't really gotten in and gotten to know the team yet, but just your early impressions. Kind of what do you think of this season?
Refresh me on one thing. They beat LSU at home last year, right?
Yes, so that was a kind of a big turning point.
I was going to say that was pretty much the game, at least as far as a winning game was last year. Honestly, that was top 5 of my favorite times at Kyle Field.
Big at halftime.
That was kind of Marcel Reed's like reemergence.
Yeah, then they inserted Marcel Reed, which this is why they won, because LSU was not prepared for Marcel at all.
Yeah.
And he just, they got the defensive stops. They got like 3 interceptions off Nussmeier.
Yeah.
And then Marcel just ran.
But you probably can't count on doing that again, especially in Baton Rouge. But,
no.
Yeah.
That was a huge win.
With that being said, I'm going to put Texas A&M in the 9-3 range, at 9-3, because LSU, they're going to have a chip on their shoulder, especially playing Texas A&M at home too.
Yeah.
Plus, they're going to remember what happened last year.
Probably going to be a night game.
Almost assuredly, right?
Yeah, because I think right now it's a flex, so but they'll make it a night game.
Yeah. They always do.
Then, of course, Texas is Texas, and, they are going to do whatever they can in their power. Plus, A&M is going to be on the road in Austin for that game as well. And plus, going off of what Tyler said, I am excited to see what DJ Lagway is going to do with the Florida Gators. So Texas A&M, I do see an improvement, but not as high as like some people may predict.
Sure.
So going from 8-4 over to 9-3, I will say is an improvement. But I do think that the sky is very, I don't really want to say blue. I do want to say red in the sense of like maroon positivity, or if any,
a shade of maroon to it.
Yeah, maroon and white skies I see for Texas A&M in the future, even going beyond 2025. But sticking with 2025, I will say 9-3 is my prediction.
Yeah,
I will say going from 8-4. From last year to one more win this year is I would say significant improvement.
I think so too.
Just because of the schedule,
right?
And I think if you go 9-3 with this schedule, you're probably a playoff team.
I think so too.
Yeah.
I think that's the magic number, especially if in that 3 one of them's Notre Dame, and so what would that be? A 7-2, 6-2 conference record, whatever it is at the end of the season.
Right. If you only have 2 conference losses.
Right. That could potentially even put you in the running to go to Atlanta, depending on how things shake out. And so, yeah, I think 9 would be the magic number there. And if all of a sudden that does give you a playoff berth, then that's kind of in the running for some of the best seasons that we've had this century, right? Mm-hmm. So, yeah, it may not seem that much, but I think most Aggies who have followed this program for the past quarter century recognize the difference between 8 and 9. That's a chance to get at least a 10-win season, including the postseason. And so, yeah, I think that would be the marked improvement, right? Or 8-4, depending on how the wins come. Like if you're 7-3 or whatever, I'm not doing the math right. If you're 7-4 going into the Texas game, and then you upset Texas to make it 8-4, I don't think there would be too many Aggies who would be upset with that, right?
No.
But yeah, I think 9-3 is like the number where Aggies could collectively say, okay, I see a path forward here.
As long as things haven't gone off the rails by the Texas game, I think that's the magic of having that be your kind of season finale, or regular season finale, is just all the buildup and hype, and a lot of things can be salvaged because 4 losses prior would be disappointing, but a win in Austin would kind of salvage
a little bit
the
of
whole
redemption
season,
there, for sure.
Also, Max, going off of what you said, that's where, strength of schedule plays a role, especially within weeks 1 and week 2. There's
right.
Like there's a coach, shout out to Clint Hartman. He said at one point in time, he said, we believe, well, for his team, Midland Lee, he said, or Midland Legacy, he said, we believe doing it the hard way is doing it the right way. But in Texas A&M's case, doing it the easy way is doing the right way.
Whatever, you got to get to 9, however it happens.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, that's it.
Yeah.
That's all I got.
Whatever it takes, right?
Yeah.
Because don't forget, Aggieland, we want to see them in the college football playoff. So, even if they have to play Texas Tech in week 3, I'll take it. Whatever it takes, right?
Absolutely.
There you go. So basically, what we're saying is they're for sure shoe-in playoff team. They're going to run the table and
that's
bring
why
home
I'm
a
glad
national
Travis isn't
championship.
here right now, because Travis would very much be the not so fast, my friend, kind of thing there, and Travis would have to put in.
But the defense,
right? Yeah, and which we will count on Travis to be a little bit more. Not in the weeds with it, but bring in some numbers next week to talk about, the deficiencies, defensive back, and what we're going to do with skill positions on offense. So there's plenty of time to talk about that before the season actually starts.
There's a lot of question marks, but we're going to kind of answer some of those questions as this preseason moves along. Be sure to tune into KBTX and KBTX.com. We're going to have kind of coverage of preseason camp leading up to the season. We'll also be in the works of our annual preseason pre-game show, kind of a 30-minute special to preview the season with all sorts of interviews. We're about to get in the season of Aggie Game Day. So lots of football coverage coming your way. But for now, we'll kind of close out this episode of the Aggie Game Day Extra podcast for the 2 former Midlanders. All 3 of us here at KBTX. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you next week.